Hey guys, this is part 3 of the Flex Guide for 3v3s. We'll be going over 20 3v3 tips and hopefully some of them will help you out. Here we go. Number 1. Communicate with your team via pings and or voice chat. Number 2. Recognize the current strongest 3v3 characters and start using them. Number 3. Be aware of any drawn out fight that happens. When you get Valma buff, recognize that it is usually most useful in lane. A typical strategy is to split push with Val buff. 2 people go in one lane and one in the other, or you can have one in each lane and your jungler pushes through mid. If you let the minions do the work for you, they will whittle down turrets and opponents, just keep the pressure on. Often it's a bad move to force a fight in the jungle when you have Vile buff. It's very much like throwing your advantage down the toilet in a lot of scenarios. Number 5. Make sure you have a bruiser or tank with high CC and or health. Otherwise, it's going to be hard trying to close out the game, even if you're getting kills early. Number 6. If you're jungle, gank bot lane if the enemy laner is pushed past the middle of the map. Use your mist as you walk past the enemy jungle to make sure the enemy jungler isn't around. Number 7. If you're AP bot, push hard and be wary of ganks from 220 to 250. Try to clear the caster minions and hit the enemy laner at the same time. Number 8. If you're standing still and there's no Rek'Sai, there's probably an issue. Try to be as aggressive as possible. Number 9. If you want to win consistently, apply as much pressure as you can. The more pressure you can apply, the easier it's going to be to close out the game. Number 10. Recognize your strengths and weaknesses. For example, I know I'm stronger at AP and jungle characters, and I'm weaker in top lane. If I coordinate with my team at champ select, maybe I can get some of those roles that I'm more comfortable with. It can boost your elo, and it's alright if you want to work on getting all the roles down, but it might take you a bit longer, so keep that in mind. Number 11. If you're playing AP bot and you're fighting an AP opponent, scaling health yellows can be very beneficial. Number 12. If you're having a hard time with map awareness, try playing a single character for a few days. As you get more comfortable with that character, you'll start to see a bit more of the map and what goes on outside of your lane. Number 13. Get masteries and runes from the best players for your particular character. Check the challenger tier list. Sometimes people do weird setups, so it's important to look at several players and analyze the similarities between them. Number 14. There are jungle characters that can carry, but there are many that are more supportive than they are destructive. That means in lower elo you may have to follow different guidelines than in higher elo. For example, I'd be playing junglers with higher carry potential if I was in lower elo, because if you're playing a support, you automatically are relying on those lower skill players to carry you through the game. Number 15. Counterpicking. Super important. If you don't understand counterpicks, there's a nice counterpicker at that link. If you're not counterpicking, you're probably wasting some time learning to play against matchups that may have to rarely happen. Number 16. If you're losing really hard early game, it's alright to give up the altar so that you can clear lane minions that are hitting your turret. It's alright to go B and let them take it. Number 17. Use stealth to your advantage. Don't put multiple people on the altar unless you really have a good reason for doing so. It's almost never a good plan to put 2 people on that thing. Number 18. Continually use your mist on the middle of the map. Bot lane and jungle are pretty much solely responsible for keeping vision there. If jungle retreats to take a camp, ping your laner to back up if they're past the middle of the map. And if you think the jungler is going to get invaded, then maybe throw out a mist for him. Number 19. This one's about when to take Vilema and when not to. As you climb in the elos, if one team is taking it and the other team can contest it, they're going to contest it and they're not going to miss it or forget about it. They'll be up there immediately. So as you get higher, it becomes less of a time consideration and more of, have you killed the enemy team off? Okay, then try to take it now. Or if maybe you've pushed them really far into their base and they can't get to you, then maybe it's a good time. Otherwise, you're probably going to want to try to wipe the enemy team, or at least maybe get one or two of them dead before you start it. It's not a great plan to fight Vilma on the entire enemy team, which is what's going to happen if you try to start it and it's still a 3v3 and higher elo. They're almost always going to contest it. It can make or break games. It's usually something to take after you've done everything else. With that said, baiting Vilma is a very different story, so the team has no intent of taking Vilma. Really what they want to do is just ace the enemy team, or at least get some good damage onto them. So what a lot of teams will do if they're facing some sort of a stalemate and they're having trouble keeping pressure on, but they know they have a lead, is they will bait Vilma and wait for them to check. And so when the enemy team comes to check, probably one person will be out in front. It's not often that they're all extremely tight-knit. So when that first person checks, you can do a lot of damage to them. At that point, your team has more health than the enemies, so you can invade their jungle and take their altar, or things like that. Number 20. The pace of the game is often dictated by the minion waves. If the lanes are pushed towards the enemy, you can try to invade sometimes. If the lanes are even, junglers might be dueling or try to creep into a lane. If the lanes are pushed towards you, your jungler should see that and try to gank the lane. The trick with understanding the ebb and flow of threes is to keep your teammates within a small radius of one another. It's all about rotations and trying to help one another out to create these situations where it's 2v1 or maybe a 3v1. It's not about the 1v1 as much. Mechanics are tough, but if you move your character a couple feet to the left, mechanics might not matter as much. A 2v1 is a lot easier to win a lot of times, and that's usually what I focus on. Hey guys, that's the end of the video. If you stuck around this long, I don't know how. I hope you're still alive. But if you have any questions, let me know and I'll try to answer them.